Hello everyone, welcome to our collection for the Sony PSP, which is my favorite dedicated handheld system of all time. I love the Switch as a hybrid system, but as far as a dedicated handheld, the PSP is my favorite, and this is the model that I've been using for many years, the original fat model PSP, which I really enjoy. The PSP, the 3000. What's nice about the 3000 is that you can hook it up to the TV with a certain cable, which is kind of nice, and it becomes a DVD player also for the UMDs. I also collect UMDs, so we're going to go through the games and then the movies. This is a system that is far from complete because of that, because I enjoy using it as both a portable movie player and a portable gaming system. The 3000 and the 2000 before it are decent systems, and they feel lighter and they're great, but nothing for me about it lives up to the original 1000. I actually like that it's heftier and heavier. It feels that it is a sturdier system. I think that it is definitely, especially considering the UMD drive here, which can be a little more fragile. There are parts in here that are plastic on the later models that are metal in the initial model. This PSP I have had since I think about a year after launch, and it still works fine, and I've never had to make a repair for it. So this has lasted a very long time, versus this system was my brother's and then became mine, and has issues with the door not staying closed and some other issues besides that. This model is sturdy and strong, and I like the fact that there are parts of it that feel like sturdier and it's more metallic, and I know a lot of people don't like that it's heavier, but to me, this is much more reliable, and even though it's lacking in some features that later models had, this is the model that I go for. This is definitely the model that I'd like to get another one of, because this is the PSP of choice for me. First up, we have Untold Legends Brotherhood of the Blade. This was the first game that I got for the PSP. It plays a lot like Diablo, but the tone and structure and the way the story is told all feels a little bit more like something like Baldur's Gate or Neverwinter Nights, but with more of a Diablo-style dungeon crawling. Fun game. There was a sequel also on the PSP. Daxter, a great spin-off to the Jak and Daxter series that was exclusive to the PSP. One of my most played PSP games, and I definitely want to get the sequel on either the Switch or PS4. We have Pixel Junk Monsters Deluxe, which is easily my favorite tower defense game of all time and is incredibly addictive. It's great to play on the go because you can play it for 10-15 minutes or a couple of hours, and it's still fun. Another great on the go for a quick fix of fun, a Namco Museum Battle Collection, over 20 arcade classics. And there are a lot of different collections like this that are great on the PSP. God of War Chains of Olympus and God of War Ghost of Sparta. Both great games in the vein of God of War 1 through 3. Overall, while I enjoyed this one, I definitely preferred Ghost of Sparta. Tomb Raider Legend, a game that I have on multiple platforms, and I really enjoy this one just for the ability to play some Tomb Raider on the go, and this trilogy in particular I really love. Shadow of Destiny, which is an enhanced port of a very early PS2 game right around the launch time here in the US, and that was one of my first experiences on the PS2, and loved it. I still replay that game every once in a while, and then this is a very enjoyable port to the PSP. Tales of the World, Radiant Mythology. This is one of the side games that has a small original story, but mostly is about bringing a bunch of different characters from a bunch of different Tales games together for a bunch of dungeon crawling and fetch quests kind of thing. It's enjoyable if you like Tales games, but sadly this is the only Tales game we got over here on the PSP, while in Japan they have numerous other spin-off games, multiple other Radiant Mythology games, and then a significant number of ports of older Tales games or PS2 Tales games. I mean, there's probably at least a dozen different Tales of games on the PSP in Japan, but not in the US. Moving on to definitely the biggest chunk of games on the console for me, games published by Square. We have the PSP versions of Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Really good editions of those games. Final Fantasy 4 Complete Edition, which includes Final Fantasy IV, very similar to the PS1 version of that, and then it also includes the After Years. Final Fantasy Tactics, The War of the Lions. This is definitely now my go-to version of Final Fantasy Tactics over the original PS1 version. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, a game which I am shocked, especially with all the Final Fantasy VII milking. I am shocked this has not been ported or remastered or put on any other system. I really thought during the PlayStation 3 era we would see a Crisis Core remastered or HD or something, and then moving on to PlayStation 4, I was like, okay, maybe there's going to be a Final Fantasy VII collection they're going to put out during the anniversary, like the original game and the Crisis Core, and I don't know, maybe Dirge of Cerberus or something, who knows, but nothing. I'm really, to this day, stunned this has not been moved to any other console. This would be a fantastic game to put on the Nintendo Switch with a remaster. I mean, I really don't understand how this is just kind of stuck on the PSP. It's great to have on the PSP, and I like playing it, but it's just bizarre. And then I have this other edition of Crisis Core, which was originally part of a bundle, but I just love the kind of platinum, almost metallic look to the cover. Same art on the back. Both of the Dissidia Final Fantasy fighting games. Very unique series. As far as one player, this is definitely has like more content. I feel like they're both fun overall, but this one, as someone who likes to play single player content on the go, this one's definitely preferable to the first one. A game which I enjoyed, but is also a big disappointment. We have the third birthday, which is Parasite Eve 3, kind of. It's Parasite Eve 3, but they completely changed the art style, changed the personality of the main character, changed the gameplay style. It's very creative. It's a very fun game, but on its own, it's great. As a Parasite Eve 3 is just kind of okay. It's another series that should make a comeback in some form. Then we have Star Ocean First Departure and Star Ocean Second Evolution. Again, these are games where I love them far more than their original versions. Second Evolution I played originally on the PS1 when that came out, Star Ocean 2, and then I prefer this version overall. They did change the way all the cinematic cutscenes are done in this, and I know that's hit or miss depending on what style you like, but overall, just playing through the game, I enjoy that version more. And then First Departure, great version of this game. The recent release on the Switch is really just a slightly enhanced version of this version of the game, which was originally a Super Nintendo game. Persona. This was a big deal to get the original Persona, this version of it, for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know how many of you out there have played the original version of Persona that we got here in the West on the PS1. I played that back in the day. When it first came out, I got it because it looks unique and interesting and eerie, and I wasn't that into it. And then when I got this version, I replayed it and had so much more fun, because not only is it enhanced from the original Japanese version, they corrected all the weird westernizations they did on the US PS1 version. They really butchered that release over here, and this they pretty much corrected that, and then also has some enhancements from the original Japanese version, so very happy to have that, because definitely the definitive edition of that first Persona game. Another one I was very excited to get was Persona 2 Innocent Sin, because oddly in the US we skipped this game. We had Persona, we skipped Persona 2 Innocent Sin, but then we have Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which I have on the PlayStation 1, and that came out and that was fantastic, and I do prefer that overall to Innocent Sin, but we did not get Innocent Sin at all on the PS1 over here, so being able to get this on the PSP, I was very excited to actually finally be able to play this game. And then afterwards, Eternal Punishment got the same treatment on the PSP, but that was only in Japan, again. So that's one I do want to import. That's one thing that is on my list for the PSP. It is a region-free console for games, and it's region-specific for UMD movies, but for games, it's region-free. So there are still a bunch of Japanese games on my list for the PSP, so it's definitely a system that I'm still collecting for, and one of those is Eternal Punishment. The last game here so far in the collection is Persona 3 Portable, and I got this not that long after beating Persona 3 for the first time, and was excited to have it on the go, and it's a bit mixed for me. There are some things that I enjoy, some of the changes to the gameplay that are a little bit more, they took some hints from Persona 4 and things like that, being able to control all your companions in battle. Some other little tweaks here and there that I really enjoyed, the option of the female protagonist, all those things are great, having it portable is great, but I do feel that it's slightly an inferior experience, and that's why I'd love to see a remastered Persona 3 with, you know, all the content of the FES release on the PS2 with the enhancements of Persona 3 Portable, the best of both worlds, because while this is fantastic and does add some stuff like that and make some improvements, having it on the PSP, they did make some cuts to where not only are you missing the majority of the anime cutscenes, which add a lot of atmosphere to the game and storytelling, the big deal for me is that instead of walking through and free roaming through all the 3D environments, whether you're in the dormitory or the school or out on the town, with the exception of the dungeons in Tartarus, and it's all just point and click visual novel style, which is fine, and it's a lot of fun, and it's great to revisit the story that way, but I feel like it's a bit of a downgrade from being able to freely explore those environments and walk around to just being the visual novel style. Again, it's enjoyable, but I really would love to see the parts that were better about this version and the parts that were better about the original version melded together into one perfect edition for this game. Moving on to UMD movies, I still collect these. They're getting harder to find. I think in Pennsylvania, Cinema Sickness bought all the PSP movies, all the UMD movies in the region, so there's like nothing left. I just keep finding that terrible stealth movie over and over again. But I like the movies on the PSP. I still watch them because even when I'm on the go, I still prefer physical media. I really just don't like digital distribution. I prefer having physical copies of movies, and I love collecting UMDs for the PSP. It's definitely my go-to movie player. When I'm on the go, I still take it places with me to watch movies and on long trips, things like that. I definitely prefer them to any kind of digital thing. So I like collecting UMDs. First one up here is Tron. I will say one thing I do is I do restrict my UMD collection a little bit. If I already have, say, many copies of a certain movie, I'm not as likely to pick it up on UMD. If, say, I already have something on VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, might not pick it up on UMD unless it's something that I really am going to watch on the go. It's kind of a mobile collection in many ways. But yeah, there's a larger explanation about what I collect and what I don't for the UMD, but for now, just Tron. Really great version of this movie. It looks beautiful. A lot of movies look fantastic on the screen on the PSP, and it does include some bonus materials, that's one thing that is fairly rare for UMD releases. Frequently they would come out and it's just the movie. and nothing else extra. The first Resident Evil. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. South Park When Technology Attacks. It has 5 sci-fi themed episodes of South Park. Great on the go. I wish there were more TV series that had releases on this format. There really aren't very many. Cowboy Bebop the movie. And that's one thing, anime titles on UMD seem to really hold their value. So there's a whole bunch that would be kind of cool to have, but not really worth the price for me to grab just to have a second copy, like a portable copy. Terminator. The Evil Dead. I'm still looking for The Evil Dead 2 on UMD. But I did find The Evil Dead. Great movie to have on the go. Always a fun time. One of my favorite movies of all time. The original, The Pink Panther. I have this on just about every format imaginable. And this also has some special features. It does include a couple of cartoons. A little bit extra stuff there. Curse of the Golden Flower. Jumanji, a childhood favorite. The only one that I have that I don't have any of the original artwork or case for. Found that though for like $1 or $2, and when you find UMDs, if they're any good, things that I enjoy, I pick them up just because I rarely run into them. But it is episodes from Season 1 of Chappelle's Show. Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. I'm still looking for Labyrinth to go along with this on UMD. And Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within is the last one. So there are many more UMD titles that I'm looking for, and more games for the PSP, so it's definitely a collection that is still growing, still a lot more that I want for it, because I love the console. It's my favorite dedicated handheld, has been now for well over a decade. I still use it as a portable movie player. I just really love the PSP.